to be here. I am home. I enjoy coming to Campbell County. We were talking about that in the car. It's our second home. I wish Melinda could be here with us today, but she's under the weather, so just keep her in your prayers if you don't mind. I want to thank Brady for your kind words, and you did everything I told you to say when you were in the car coming in, so thank you very much. I made that up. I've got a couple of people here that really don't know me, so I better not joke quite as much. But we do have some distinguished people. Judge, isn't it? Judge Jones. So congratulations, General Sessions. I make it a habit, sir, to try to learn who the General Sessions Court is. Not that I'm a fast driver or anything like that. Congratulations. And then, I don't know if Brad, you know this, 40, under 40, are you aware of this designation? And how significant that is? 40 young people in the East Tennessee region, young professionals, were selected on their ability and their achievements and their contributions to the community. He's one of them. 40 people out of the hundreds of thousands in East Tennessee was chosen by the Knoxville Senate to be honored. That's quite an honor. I'm hoping one day for maybe 60 over 60, and that's me. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think so at all. Can we give him a round of applause? And the reason why I want to make some emphasis on it, because he deserves it, and I've been involved in that program in years, it's not as a recipient, but I have been involved in that program, and I'm aware how significant that is. These decisions, these folks that get chosen, you know, it's not a win. They very carefully at this. It's quite an award. And then I see Dennis Powers here, my colleague in the House. Dennis is our longtime friend. We served together. I just couldn't have a better representative. As a senator, it's always good to have representatives you know you can count on. For example, to carry a bill. And I go to Dennis many times, and he comes to me to try to carry one another's bills in the General Assembly. So he does an outstanding job. He's always there, hard at work. I just want to say that about you, Dennis. He's a fine conservative, too. So I'm glad to be here and chat just a few minutes with you, and then, if time permits, to take your questions. I'll talk a little bit about the legislature. We haven't really met too much yet. I'll tell you a little bit about what we've done, what we can try to expect, and then if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. I can't do a thing about the weather, but I think it's going to warm up in a couple of weeks. So, the General Assembly has started its work in 2025. The 114th General Assembly convened in an organizational meeting on January 14th, which is actually the date that the Constitution requires us to meet on. We met at noon on Tuesday, January 14th, and our first, since it was the beginning of a new session, the 114th, which is a 2-year session. We always have an organizational week, and we elected a speaker for a 2-year term. From Anderson County, Senator Randy McNally was re-elected speaker for it's a 2-year term. And he was re-elected for that term, and then he made several appointments, not the least of which were the committee appointments, and I'm very pleased that he had enough confidence in me to keep me on the major committees in the Senate. The 2 major committees in the Senate is the Finance, Ways, and Means Committee, which its jurisdiction is very broad, and anything to do with finance, ways, and means. We're the ones, among other things, make the recommendation on the budget each year. And we approve any spending that comes through our lens, and we take a look at it. That's another speech in itself, another day. And then the Commerce Committee, we call it the Commerce Committee. That's shorthand, but its real name is Commerce, Insurance, and Banking. Anything to do with business, corporations, partnerships, sole proprietorships, mom and pop, anything to do with business regulation comes into our committee, as well as the banking industry. Any aspect of the banking industry comes under our jurisdiction. We work very closely with Commissioner Gonzalez, who's over the Office of Financial Institutions, that works closely with the bank. We've got some banks in the audience today. Yeah, okay. You probably met Mr. Gonzalez. He may have been in your bank, I don't know. Anyway, he's fine now. We work very closely with him on our bank. We have a very strong banking industry in this state. When I say strong, I mean very sound. They actually are really assets to our communities. But we work very closely with insurance. Anything to do with insurance, either casualty, liability, health. Insurance is next to alcohol, is one of the most regulated industries in the state. And that comes to my committee. And we deal a lot with health insurance. We have jurisdiction over all forms of insurance, and there are bills, already dozens of bills ready for us to look at. But primarily health insurance and TennCare, which is, of course, health insurance, government's health insurance. But we have a lot of that because there's always folks who want to make changes in insurance policies, and a lot of folks like to put mandates on insurance companies to make them do certain things, which of course will drive up your rates. But that is a busy committee I'm on. So I'm pleased that he's put me on finance and commerce, where I've been required a little experience there. So that's where you'll find me. I want to invite you to come anytime to any of our meetings. So the committees now have been appointed, and then we generally take off. We have the organizational meeting I just alluded to. Then we generally take off 2 weeks to get the committee set up, do all the organizational stuff that needs to be done, and then come back and go to work. Well, this year that was cut short by 1 week because the governor has called a special session of the legislature, or what the lawyers would call, what is legally known as an extraordinary session of the Tennessee General Assembly. So he has called a special session for next Monday. He's asked the legislature to convene at 4 o'clock next Monday afternoon, where I'm sure that he will lay out in more detail in a joint session of the House and the Senate what he wants to do. Now, in his call for the session, he has to list the things that he wants us to look at. We can't look at anything else but those issues in the session. And it's a surprisingly long call, I think. And I'll try to talk from memory about this. Dennis, if I need help, you may have to fill in the blanks.
Sure.
If
I can.
But one I want to talk about, because I think it has a local application, is the fact that he's called the legislature in session to consider appropriating in excess of $400 million toward the relief of the at-risk and depressed counties in Upper East Tennessee that were just devastated by the floods. Remember Hurricane Helene came through, absolutely devastated. And to give other tax relief to people in that devastated area. I went there. I've been there. I went there about 3 weeks after it happened. I thought, well, that's a long enough interim. Things would have settled out. Well, they haven't settled out. And I have never witnessed such devastation in my life. I've seen a lot over my years, but I've never seen such devastation. I stopped at one house. It was the only house left on the street because it was a brick house and had a concrete foundation. The 7 other houses on that street were all swept away down the river, from the river. We just swept away into a bridge somewhere and tore the bridge, a highway bridge up, tore it up. I talked and visited that one gentleman. He was a 75-year-old guy who was in there by himself, trying to strip all the wallboard out of the house so he could, get fresh stuff put in there, and he and his wife could go back to live there. 75 years old. And I said, well, let us help you. I was just, well, let me finish the story. And it's a very emotional story for me. He showed me around in the house, the damage and how, they thought they were fortunate because they had a brick house. But a truck that was floating down the water struck their HVAC unit, knocked it away from the house, and all the water that was flowing, the torrents, went through that opening in the house and flooded his entire home. And it must have been surreal because he told me that the water came into the house through the HVAC, the duct work, and and through the vents in the house, and it would shoot. The pressure of the water caused it to shoot up like these huge fountains. And he and his wife saw them. Most of us, they didn't go. They climbed up on the bed, and the waters finally rose until the bed floated. But someone in a boat came to them and rescued them. Can you imagine such a harrowing experience? So he showed me the house. He was telling me about all the things he lost. And he started to cry. I didn't know what to do. So I just put my arms around him and hugged him and prayed for him. I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. So when coming back to that, and I've since helped that gentleman. I asked him that day if he needed help. Jeff's his name. And you know what he said? You've heard his story I just told you. He said, oh no, don't bother with me. There's other people who are worse than I am. We need to go help them. And that attitude of the people in those counties, that was a prevalent attitude. Everywhere you went, it was, hey, my neighbor needs it worse than I do. You need to go help them. When they lost everything they had. And I went to one little a drink station where people had brought bottled water. They stacked it up for you to come and get when you needed it. And somebody had done a very crudely made sign that said, "We are so blessed." I couldn't believe it. That attitude. It just was very emotional for me to go up there and see it, but I'm glad I did. And I want to single one person out in this county that connected me up there. Do any of you know, I believe it's Mike Dent, who is the pastor for the Church of God the Father? I knew who he was because he's offered prayers at dinners that I attended. But he and I got connected last fall at a meeting, at an interview I was giving to the volunteer times there at his church. And I took his offer. He said he was talking. He goes regularly up there to the damaged area. He takes supplies every week. He had their what I call their fellowship hall at the church. It was filled to the gills, to the top, with supplies that he had gathered that he was taking up there to those people. I've just never seen such public spirit. And he goes regularly. He said, "You can go with me." And I said, "Okay." I thought we'd drive up there, drive around, and come home. I was up there for 12 hours on foot. But I'm glad I was, or I'd never met Jeff or the other people there that are suffering. So, I'm going back to see Jeff because he doesn't know who did it, but I wrote a check. I said, that man needs some help. We're going to find somebody to come in and help him. Well, Mike Dent found somebody, and I gave a gift to the church. And I really don't like to be public with what I've done here. But I gave a gift to the church, and Mike took care of it. And I'm going back to see Jeff's newly walled house with all the fresh wall work and stuff. I'm looking forward to that. So those counties have experienced a 1,000-year flood, a devastating experience, and they were at risk in the depressed counties to begin with. And so that's one call on the governor's special session proclamation that we appropriate. I believe it's in excess of $400 million, and I'm talking from memory here, to help that, and to also provide some other relief, maybe giving folks some relief on your property tax, which is what we did for the folks who during the Gatlinburg fires. So that's one thing that we're doing. You know, they did, and we're also being asked to appropriate, I believe, $20 million to rebuild a high school there in, I guess it's, I think it's Carter County. You know, Hampton, the Hampton High School. That's where I was. I went there, and then, you know, we think of the Jeffs I just talked about, but their high school was totally ruined by the flood. They didn't have a high school that had students in it. And so, you know, the local government up there was a distressed county. And so we're going to give them appropriate $20 million with the legislature approves it, and we will, to help them build that school back. Because I was up there and saw that school. It's unbelievable to me, the damage. Just unbelievable. That's incredible. So that's one item on the special session is the damage wreaked by the flood. And then another item would be, he's called us and he wants us to look at his freedom scholarships that also known as vouchers. He raised that issue again. He wants us to consider that. I think that will probably draw a lot of the attention. It's very controversial. I said I have gotten 300 letters on it. I've gotten 4 letters from 300 people. Everybody's using a form letter, but anyway, I said, I got 4 letters on this. That's all you got. I said, well, actually 4 form letters used by 300 people. But I've got a lot of mail on that both ways coming into this, and it's a huge issue. You know, probably you know very well in times past I have voted no on that because I had concerns about the language of the bill and the way it would affect local schools' revenues. The governor has fixed that. He has fixed that. And I'm grateful that he has done that. For those of you, I know we have Jennifer, she does an outstanding job as your school director. She has a great statewide reputation. She's well thought of in Nashville. What will happen here is that you know the principle, the dollars follow the student. They lose a student to another county. In times past under former law, that money would have followed that student to the other school. Well, that's not going to happen in this case. If someone gets one of these scholarships and they go to a private school, the money that the school system was receiving, they will continue to receive it indefinitely. So I'm really happy that the governor has fixed that, because that was my biggest concern about the bill, was the fact that they lose money. The contribution, that level 1 contribution in the TISA formula, Jennifer, it will not change. I think we're talking about $7,000 a student. Again, I'm rounding my numbers. You know, every student gets $7,000, but that was the student doesn't get it, the system gets it. That will not change. So I'm really happy about that we can do that. I'm not ready to make a public commitment on the bill yet because I want to wait and see what the Senate Education Committee does. And that's not just because it's this bill. I generally do that on most bills. I have a policy. I read my bills. I never go on a bill that I have not read. I just don't do that. Because this may shock you, but sometimes members will try to hide something in the bill. Man, look, hey, this is a great bill, but when you read the fine print, there's something there you may not want. So I read my bills, and I generally wait till the bill gets through the committee. Because the committee is where a bill is really changed. The bill, but when it gets to the House, to the Senate floor, and to the House, it can't be changed. It'd be very difficult to change it then. Any bill in the legislature, any changes that are going to be made will be made in committee. And so I want, and see last year, some of the changes that were made, may have some the last effort. I won't rehash the past, but I want to see what the committee does. We have a new committee chairman in the Senate Dawn White from Murfreesboro, who's a very friend of mine, looking forward to working with her. So I'm really pleased the governor, Bill Lee does listen and he does respond. So I'm really pleased that he's done that, fixed that problem with the bill. So we'll see what happens. So in addition, the property damage because of the flood, the ESAs, and then really it's a little general, but there are several. He's asking us to take up some bills which we've not seen on dealing with the illegal immigrants that are in our state and our counties. And I think he's trying to maybe piggyback on some things that President Trump is recommending, but we haven't seen those bills yet. That issue, dealing with that, I want to tell you that is one of the most serious problems we face in the state is the vast numbers of people who are coming into this state illegally. It's a very serious problem that we really need to regulate, because I think I may have mentioned this before in one of my speeches, maybe here. Why I say that is these folks that are coming into our country illegally many of them are working with the drug cartels in Mexico. They're bringing a very deadly drug called fentanyl that is being made in communist China. And don't forget, communist China is not our friend. They're being made in China, taken by China to Mexico, and then and Chinese government has connections to the drug cartels, and through those connections are having that drug sent to Campbell County and the other counties in my district and across the state, killing thousands of people in Tennessee. And to me, that's outrageous. And, we ought to stop that as quickly as we can. And I know I've got a couple of bills myself on immigration this year, just to try to give law enforcement more information so they can, do their job better, make Homeland Security and local law enforcement talk to each other. We talk about that. That'd be maybe another road program, So illegal immigration, scholarship, the devastation are three. I think there was another. I'm talking extemporaneously, but those are the major pieces. And as far as the regular, I don't know how long this special session will last. I would think it would have to last at least, I don't think it'd be longer than a week. Some folks, we'll be out there a week. Well, we will not be, because the bills that the governor will file will have to go to the education committee first. The education committee on both houses, and maybe in the House they have a subcommittee problem. You have to go through those committees and to be vetted, and then it will come up to the respective houses, the Senate of the House, for a vote after it's out of committee. And I don't think that can be done in a week. I think in 10 days it'd be far more reasonable. Believe me, I don't want to, but I think it will be. And then we'll go back and we won't have any time off. We'll go back into regular session. The deadline, the most important thing we'll be working on is the budget. The deadline for amendments to the budget I haven't heard what it is yet, but it's usually early to mid-February, somewhere in the dead. So we really don't know how many bills will be filed. Hundreds, thousands of bills are filed every session. Not that many passed, thank goodness. We'll look at many of those bills. So the deadline hasn't, so we really don't know yet just exactly what to expect. The governor won't let us see his budget till the first Monday in February. And of course, we'll get a print copy of that, and he'll make a speech the first Monday in February. And then we'll go to work, and then my work really starts on finance. After all the other committees have closed, finance is still working. We work till the last day to pull this budget apart. So I've given you an overview of what to expect from the special session and the general session that's coming up in the 114th. How much time do I have, Les Bradley?
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes. 2 minutes, okay. Do you have any questions you want to ask me? You're last, Rob. There went my opportunity for a front page story. Let's see if any of these folks have questions, and then we'll come back to you. And if we run out of time, I'll stay until you got every question asked. Yeah.
Hearing out of Washington, the proposal of some pretty massive cuts to Medicaid funding. Have you heard anything specific yet about that? How would it impact TennCare?
No, I have not. I'm going to be talking to Steve Smith, who's the commissioner, the head of the TennCare Bureau, about that. I'm really concerned about that because a lot of our funding for TennCare comes through the federal government to see what we're going to do there. And of course, that will affect you guys, hospitals, and ambulance services. So I've got some bills, and I'll talk to you about, I've got some bills in the legislature trying to raise the percentage of the TennCare contribution to equal Medicare's contribution, which I think will help everybody.
Yes,
Medicare reimbursement is a lot bigger than TennCare, so I'm trying to get that equalized. Just takes a while. I've been working on that for 3 years, but we'll get it done. But I'm sorry, I can't answer your question, but that is it. You know, we have probably, again, I'm speaking in general terms, but I would say we have 20 to 30% of people living in Campbell County are on TennCare. I know at least 20, could be upwards of 30% living on TennCare in Campbell County. So I say that to tell you this, whatever cuts are made, that's a dramatic effect on this county. So, and in all my rural counties, those percentages are 20 to 30%. We're probably a little bit above average in percentages. And anytime you start messing with that program, you're messing with 30% of my constituency, you've got my attention. See what's going on. What else? Good question, though. I had a tour of this hospital several months ago, and you don't know what an asset you have. We need to do everything we can to take care of it. Everything we can to take care of the hospital.
Thank you.
What else do you have for me? Somebody asked me a question, I'll have to go back to Rob.
Dude, what have you done
Yeah.
You talked about the relief funds.
Uh-huh.
How does that trickle down to help people like this?
I don't know the answer to that, but it would be in the form of grants, probably I'm guessing through the appropriate state agency or maybe through the county government. Okay. That is a very general answer to a very specific question, but I promise you I'm going to ask that question myself. We haven't seen the bills yet. The governor, the way this works is he sent us a proclamation, and in the proclamation he said his agenda for the special session. And by major category, that is what we have seen. And jump in and tell me if I've said something wrong. And so we haven't seen the bills. So I can't answer that fully that question. But that's a good question because we need to get that money to these people. When I went up there, I didn't hear one good word for FEMA, the Federal Emergency Man. Seriously, not one good word. They were more of a hindrance than a help to those people up there. And I don't want that said about TEMA, the state counterpart. And I'm sure that somehow that money will flow through TEMA or TEMA will have a say in that. But I promise you I'll be asking that question in finance because I don't want it said about us what they said about TEMA. In fact, they caused more problems. FEMA, then good that they did. I know, I don't mind. I'm calling them out. I am criticizing them. I was absolutely shocked at what I heard, what they did, which was nothing to help anybody. What else? What other questions do you have? Yes.
Yager, I do have a question about the vouchers. My question is it going to affect the Hope Scholarship? Is
No.
that going to be reduced?
No.
Or funded?
No. What else? What other questions do you have? Robbie, you have any time?
Just enough time for Robbie's question.
I thought you were on this side. Robbie, it's your question. Bring the curtain down.
Well, I guess so. Is the legislature, if the bill passes, are they guaranteeing that the funding to the district will be the same like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Yes.
And then
Are you
okay.
talking about school district?
Yes.
Yes. That was the very question I asked. I have met with the Department of Education, and I was concerned that was my one issue, because they said they were going to hold the counties harmless. I said, okay, they're going to hold it harmless this year, but what about next year and the year after that? And I've been assured that that is permanent.
And should the private schools have the same accountability standards as the public schools?
I think everybody ought to account for the public money that they spend.
Like in terms of the standards that the schools have to have? Should the private schools have those same?
I think everybody should account for the use of the public money.
Okay.
What else do you have? So far, so good. Not too bad.
All right, let's wrap this show up.
We actually did a lot. I thought you were supposed to tell him it was 1 o'clock today. I only kid people I like. Yes, ma'am, you are going to bring it's time to go. I've been in this long enough to know to get out of here when it's time to go.
Being, an educator, and I know you were an educator.
Yes.
The accountability piece of this is sort of a tricky thing. Is this
Yeah.
correct? And so there's not really a plan in place yet, but there will be.
I'm sure it will be brought up. I'm talking for the education committee, which I don't have any inside information on that. But that is such an important issue, it has to come up. Okay. And I understand the questions that I've been asked, and I gave you a very general answer because I don't want to get any specifics about it, because I don't know all that yet. But, I understand. Yes, I taught school for 5 years. I taught 7th grade, and I tell people, if you can teach 7th grade, you can do anything. And it was, I don't even want to tell you how long ago it was, but most of the ones I taught are now retired. Seriously, are you a retired teacher? I still stay in touch with those students, or they stay in touch with me. I had a couple of them call me on my birthday. I don't know how they knew about my birthday, but they were 5 good years for me, teaching school.
Because you make a difference.
I hope that I am. I think so, but thank you. What else do we have? I appreciate your letting me just talk to you in a conversational style for lunch. I could have given you this kind of a speech, but you've heard those before, and I'm with friends today, and I just want to chat with you a little bit about issues that are important that are coming up. And I'm available anytime. You've got my cell number is 865-773-4799. Call me anytime. If you're not in my system, what you need to do is text me with your name, so you're in your system, because I generally don't, the judge and I were commiserating, we generally don't take calls if there's no name with the number. I've tried that before, and there were disastrous consequences. Thank you for letting me serve. Thank you for re-electing me. I got a huge vote of confidence out of Campbell County in November. I am so grateful for your support. We were close to 90% of the vote here in Campbell County. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. I'm going to be in Campbell County, probably more than where I live, because I will do all I can to help Campbell County. So thank you.